Welcome back to the Light Skinema podcast. This is episode 29, where we'll be talking about Steven Spielberg's newest film, Disclosure Day, and we're going to be doing, towards the end of the episode, each of our top 10s of Steven Spielberg as well. But of course, before we get into the major piece of this episode today, Jthon, what have you been watching? How's life been? What have you been doing?
I've been doing good. Just wrapping up my last, few days in California. So just been taking it easy, but also, watching World Cup, getting some Love Island in, got to represent Corbin, light skinema, Jablasian, as he puts it. So got to represent, just kicking it back. Not too much. How about you, man?
Not bad. I definitely, today was just, felt like a really, I don't know, good positive step, I guess, in my summer journey, I would say. I'm definitely getting more confident and comfortable in my internship, so that feels good. Like it doesn't feel as maybe as scary as it did the first couple weeks. I will say every morning I wake up early though at like 6:30. I just want to shoot myself in the head. But once I get to work and get going, it's totally fine, and I'm enjoying it. Um, full swing back into marathon training. Finally, like my hands healed, getting ready for that. It's been tough. Just getting back into running. I won't lie, but I'm just trying to enjoy it. Not, I'm pretty much what I'm getting. I'm trying to enjoy the process of everything right now, and not trying to look so far into the future. I know literally last pod I just said my two dates in the summer are like looking for the Odyssey, and I'm looking for um when I'm going on vacation at the end of the summer. But I'm really just trying to take it day by day. I think it's just better for my mental health. Just try to complete one day at a time instead of just, trying to pile everything on. But, you know, not too bad. A lot of movie watching. We'll get into it in a little bit. This summer I'm really, not that I haven't made this effort, but I'm really trying to see stuff at the independent theaters that are around the Massachusetts area. I know Jthon, we've been to the Somerville Theater once, I think, just for the Brutalist, and we've been to the Brattle this past winter. So you're familiar with those. I like going there a lot. The Coolidge Theater is another one that I've actually haven't been to before, just because the parking there is miserable. But they're playing a bunch of Nolan movies starting next week, actually. Next week I'm seeing The Prestige, and then there's some other ones down the line in early July that I'm seeing. So I've definitely been making an effort to do that. This Saturday, coming up, I'm watching The Shining at the Brattle. I've seen The Shining in theaters already on the re-release they had in December, but it's top 10 for me. So of course I'm gonna go and have a great time. But yeah, the theater has always been, we've talked about it a lot, and especially you've been going pretty much every week this year since you had your AMC A list. So you're getting
Shit's nice.
on to like yeah, you've been on the consistency that I typically am going every week. But sometimes going to the theater feels more like a chore. I will be honest sometimes, but I will say the last couple months, and even with movies I haven't really enjoyed, it's been very therapeutic for me. So it's been really nice. I won't lie.
I get that. Like, especially just off work or like, I don't know, if there's a day like I don't know, you're just dying to go outside, like, not a
Yeah,
better,
yeah.
not a better journey you can go on. So
Like
totally get
yeah, like
that.
last night I went to the Alamo and at the Seaport, and it's just like
Love that
it was
place.
just nice because it wasn't too hot out. Just to like I didn't walk too much after the movie, but just to walk, after and get to the parking garage is just just nice, and it's just I stay off my phone the whole time till I get back in my car. It's just nice to just kind of unwind, see a good movie, and I'll get into the movie I saw once we go over our stuff. But yeah, I don't want to yap too much because I definitely want to get to the good stuff. But
Should we get into it? I guess the first one we can go over is Hoppers because that was a big 2026 watch that I've just been
hmm
procrastinating so long, and it's honestly been kind of a meme with my roommates about watching this movie. But I finally, broke the shell and I finally watched it. And yeah, it was about what I was expecting it to be. I gave it a 2.5. I don't know. just I'm starting to think that maybe like it's always tough with Pixar because they're always going to have that expectation with the other films that they've made. Wally, Up, Incredibles. You could go on down the list, but it's always going to be in the back of my head just comparing these movies. But I gave it a 2.5, and I'm just starting to think that maybe this studio like really isn't for me anymore, and that's okay. Pixar is kind of catering to a certain niche, and I just don't think that is really for me. It's kind of I wouldn't say a vintage Pixar plot, but it definitely takes inspiration, and they do definitely pay homage to certain Pixar films like Up with the talking animals. And I don't know, it was just trying to do a lot, in my opinion. Uh, the art style wasn't particularly for me. I just don't really. I feel like ever since Soul, they've been kind of trying to do these like realistic, but also like cartoony humans, and I don't know, it just kind of turns me off. Instead of each film having their own like depiction, and maybe I'm kind of speaking out of turn because I haven't seen Luca or the other Pixar movie that came out this decade, Elio. But I don't know. I'm just starting to realize that I've kind of outgrown the films they're kind of making, and it's cute. It has its funny moments, but it definitely just wasn't for me. Maybe it might be something that I don't know, an environmentalist would enjoy, but no, I don't know. It had its moments,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
wasn't for me.
yeah, I gave this a 3, which is probably honestly a little bit lower than my enjoyment with it. I think, like, I agree with most of the things you said about newer Pixar. I think just because our age too. I mean, it's a lot different when we were 8 years old and we were getting like Cars, Toy Story, Incredibles, all that type of stuff. It's just we're impacted different now than how we were as kids. But I think as far as like the new age ones, I think this is certainly one of the better ones. I think obviously Soul was really good. I like Luca. I think Luca's really solid, and I think Hopper's is solid as well. I mean, I still have to catch up on a bunch of them. I know Elemental, people had decent things to say about that. That kind of went under the radar a few years ago. Some people really like Elio. I mean, I'm definitely going to make it a mission to watch those, hopefully by the end of this year, just to finally catch up. But, I think Pixar's still a worthy company. I think they obviously still rely a lot on their iconic franchises. Like, obviously, tomorrow, the day of this recording, I'm going to see Toy Story 5. Inside Out 2 came out, what, 2 years ago or last 2 years ago, I think. I liked Inside Out 2, but obviously, their heavy hitters seem to be the ones that are, obviously connected to the franchises that, really started the company off. So, I get why people are a little bit down on Pixar compared to what it used to be, but I think Hopper's was okay. It wasn't bad, wasn't great. That's kind of how I stand on it.
Yeah, I think that it's always going to kind of be a conversation, and unfortunately, it just will be. And it's kind of unfair to the people who worked on this film because I can imagine that they, probably didn't or had little to no connection to prior films in Pixar. But just in my head personally, I'm always going to think it back to the glory days and just think about how, Pixar, in my opinion, used to be almost the American Studio Ghibli. And now I don't
Hmm.
know, they're just kind of somewhere in between. But
Yeah.
the next film I want to go over, Challengers. I'll go over two Luca Guadagnino movies here. Challengers. I watched it the first time with you. I was a couple months late to it. Watched it back in June. Um, I started as a 5. The second watch, I bumped it down to 4.5. Couldn't tell you why, but just how I was feeling at the time. And then when I rewatched it, I bumped it back to 5. It's just so entertaining. Like I love this thing. Zendaya, it's easily her best role. Um, you know, I know we already kind of made a recording on this episode, Nick, but I would love to revisit it someday. Um, I was looking at your review, and you said that the score wasn't your favorite aspect of the movie, which is insane to me because every time I rewatch this movie, it's one of the first things I think about, and just an insane snub at the Oscars that year. It didn't even get a nomination, but I just love.
Was that on my first review or most recent one?
It might have been your first review.
Because if it was my first, that makes sense. Because I honestly, when I gave the film a 4 rating on my first watch, it was really because I would just kind of, and this is dumb to say, but if I'm being honest, this was it. I was so excited for this film, and when I walked out of it, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I really don't know, and more so, I don't know, leaning to the bad side.
Mm,
But I ended up giving it a 4. But I remember when we went 2 months after it released in June, which was in theaters still, but when we saw it, I was like, no, this is great. I'm like, this is actually great. And then since then, I've been, loving it. But yeah, when I first watched it, I didn't like the score. I thought it was too over the top, too like melodramatic. But now, I think I've seen it 3 times. It's great, all around great.
yeah. Uh, I added the album to my Spotify. Right after I watched it, and I just love it. Like it's insanely entertaining. People might get turned off by like how hypersexual it is, but it honestly doesn't bother me. And I don't think it's that graphic to the point where like, oh, like this is like a horn dog movie or whatever you want to label you want to put on it. But this thing is awesome. I think the nonlinear narrative is great here, and I think it just shows why it's still like a huge, huge plot device that people use when writing these scripts. And I just think it's brilliant, and it honestly put me onto Luca Guadagnino. I've only seen 2 films of his. The next one I'm about to talk about in a second, but it this movie definitely became one of those ones where the director is a name I'm going to look out for going forward.
Yeah, snubbed at the Oscars all around. It should have been nominated for a lot that year.
Absolutely. And we'll just transition into Call Me by Your Name. AMC had a re-release in theaters, so I was able to catch it, and it's just amazing. It truly is. I stuck with the 4 out of 5, and I don't know if it's gonna bump up or down or not. Luca Guadagnino, he tells very sexual, romantic stories, and in this one, I would definitely say is a little more sexual than Challengers. But man, I just love when movies are shot in Italy. Like it's such an
Hmm.
easy win for me, and it's super obvious the Italian neorealism that he's paying homage to. Um, just someone as who studied screenwriting in college. It's just very. It's exactly what I want out of a movie in terms of the dialogue, and you know everyone looks at Timothy Chalamet's last scene in this movie, and it's very touching, obviously. And they talk about how important nonverbal acting is, but it's everywhere in this movie. Even in the scenes where they're spewing out dialogue, you can just see the emotion written on the Army Hammer and Timothy's faces, and it's brilliant. If you haven't checked it out, it's an absolute recommend for me, especially if you're into screenwriting. I want to, I'm trying to make it a mission for me later into the second half of this year just to buy and read more screenplays. And this is one that I'm definitely going to look at because it just spews out character. And it's a value that, a lot of films, including the one we're going to talk about today, that I think could use a little bit more of.
Yeah, I really like Call Me by Your Name. I have to rewatch this. Hopefully sometime this year I can rewatch it. I do have it on Blu-ray, so it'll be very easy to watch. But yeah, it's really good. One of Timmy's best performances by far as well. He was uh, how old was he? He was like 21 when he made that or something like that. So fairly young into his acting career, which got his first Oscar nomination as well.
And lastly, I'll just briefly go over Following by Christopher Nolan. I don't know if it was on the air or off the air, but I think maybe after the last episode, we talked about knocking down a little more Christopher Nolan films, and it definitely, made me want to check out Following more. And, it's cool. Like, I wasn't very familiar with the actors here, but I think they, served the script well. And it's just really interesting to see what Nolan does with a little less toys than he's used to. He's not getting the IMAX 35, 70 millimeter film that he's, accustomed to now, but it's evident that, he has a certain style and taste for. And I think that's what you have to nail on these short films, especially in your early career.
Yeah, this one, like, it feels like a student film, but he never went to film school. He got rejected from film school. Like, I'm a massive Christopher Nolan fan. He pretty much just filmed this film on weekends when obviously like him and his friends weren't working or anything like that. So I don't know how long it took them to make it. Probably longer than a typical short film, just because they had to wait so long in between shooting days. But yeah, I mean, it's if you've seen student films, this very much feels like one. It is a feature narrative. It is like 100. No, sorry, it's like an hour and 20 minutes, hour 10 minutes. It's certainly my least favorite out of his. I think it's just you can't really compare it to what he does after this, even right after with Memento. But it's still solid. I'm gonna be rewatching very soon as well. I've only seen it once, so I'm gonna be rewatching soon as well. And I love, if you can see my screen right now, I love that he shot a Batman like little symbol on somebody's door, and then like
I
8 years
noticed
down the
that.
line he
That was
films.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. Is that all you got? Because I think, unless you have, I don't know if you want to talk about this right here, but
There's a
yeah.
little more I could go into, like Scary Movie, but honestly, I didn't really think too much of it. Like, and honestly, like what do you go into expectation wise with that movie? But man, it's just like really fucking stupid. I can't lie to you, but I almost walked it. You know what's funny? Like I almost walked out. I went to the bathroom and I came back, and there's two couples in the theater, and both of them were gone by the time I came back, and it's like wow, like. But what do you expect?
Yeah, yeah. It's you know definitely an experience. All right, let's see what I got. I know. I'm trying to think the last time we talked. It wasn't too long ago.
I want to say June 3rd or June 4th.
I think the fourth, but let's see what we got here. I kind of want to touch on this because I kind of wanted to talk about this when we were talking about Michael before. So this Michael Jackson documentary just came out on Netflix. There's been a lot of documentaries on Michael, whether it's been like from his own team or just depicting like his performances, depicting his controversies. This one is obviously about the trial, and it showed a lot. Obviously they didn't film in the courtroom, but it was showing like all the people that were on the stand, a lot of people that were on Michael's side, like his attorneys and stuff, and a lot of people that were against him. And this is where I want to, this is where I stand on Michael, because I see a lot of people still talking about the Michael movie, and this is something I want to talk about as well. His music, his art, what he has done for the entertainment space is second to none. He probably is my favorite artist of all time if I really had to break it down. I mean, it's very close with some other people, but if I could only pick one artist, it would probably be Michael Jackson. It's been that way probably since I was in like seventh or eighth grade. Um, I've read many books on Michael. I've watched a lot of documentaries. I've seen his music videos over and over and over. I've done art projects on Michael Jackson. But this is how I feel when it pertains to obviously his controversies and obviously this trial. He was not convicted of what all the charges were against him. I think there was like anywhere from 6 to 12 charges. None of them he got convicted on. But this is what I will say. You should never be in a situation where you're questioned on anything bad, because if you're in that situation, not saying you're 100% guilty, but there's probably something there. And that's how I've always kind of felt about it. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that was in this documentary I've already seen before, and a lot of it has already been disproven. But it's definitely, it's very uncomfortable and it's very sad for multiple reasons. But, you know, I think this documentary was probably used as like a hit piece to just react to the movie, because obviously the movie didn't really touch about any of this stuff. But, most of the stuff in here I had already seen. But, I mean, it's unfortunate that Michael put himself in some of these scenarios, and it's also unfortunate the extremes people did to try to tear him down, and some of that stuff was just very easily misproven. But like I said, for his name to even be in these kind of circles is your name shouldn't even be in there. That's how I feel about it. If I'm being honest, I would be, if I was a parent, I would not want, you know, my kid coming back to me saying stuff like that at all. I feel like most people feel that way, but I think this will be talked about forever with Michael. As long, I mean, his name will probably live forever just because how great his music is. But this is always an element to him that is going to be there, and it's just, it's unfortunate, but I think it was worth the watch. But honestly, like I said, I've known a lot about him for a long time, so most of the stuff that was in here I kind of already knew about. But yeah,
I think you kind of understand where we stand on Michael Jackson, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, but I agree on certain sentiments with you, Nick, that, where there's smoke, there's fire. And, it's just always going to be a little convoluted when you look at his later years, especially when you just think about, yes, like he was obviously not in the, best mental space, whether that was his fault, just not seeking professional help, or just an accumulation of factors. You could look at, his relationship with his own kids, a matter of fact, not even just, what happened in Neverland, but it's just like you said, it's always going to be a thing with this character, and the media definitely attacked him for it. And, he died thinking that, a lot of people were against him. So it's just always going to be a discussion to be had. And I have not watched this documentary, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little biased because, he's a hero. Like, and that's the thing with celebrities, is that, we don't want to see them fall down. But when we see, certain allegations come to light and certain aspects of their character, it mixes that shit up. And it's just the dilemma with celebrities. What characteristics do we want to celebrate, and who kinds of people do we want to, look up to and think of as almost heroes? So that's just my kind of thoughts on it.
yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here. We have, well, you just brought up you loving, you know, Italy depicted in film, not white chicks. That's not what I meant to press.
Great film.
Let's see what we got here. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Summertime. This is directed by David Lean. I think I've only ever seen Lawrence of Arabia, which he directed, which is probably his most notable film. But this is a great film. Katharine Hepburn's in it, who is, to my knowledge, I think she holds the record for the most Oscars won by an actor, or she's tied. She has four. But this was my first film I've ever seen of hers. I've been wanting to watch her films for a long time. Loved it. This is just a very simple film. Older woman who, you know, is not older like old, but like middle age, is just not loving, her life back at home, kind of the everyday working and just routine. So she goes to Italy, she saves up for this big trip, and she's somebody that's very isolated, hasn't really been in many relationships or had very very many loves in her life, and then she comes across a guy when she goes to Venice. I won't get into kind of what happens and like what it spirals into, but it's a really good simple film. It's pretty quick too. I really enjoyed it. I think probably this will be a reoccurring watch, hopefully, every summer. And I know it's on the Criterion Collection too, so I might thinking about buying it for the sale that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So definitely really great. Another in theater watch that has instantly went in my top five of the year, I think so far. Yeah, Tuner. This one was great. Leo Woodall, who's on the cover of the poster right now, one of my favorite actors working today. He's phenomenal. Dustin Hoffman's in this. Small role, but he's really great. Havana Rose Liu is, kind of the second build actor in this. She's really great. I've seen her in a couple things. This film, I really was mixed on it going into it because I've seen a lot of people really enjoy it. A lot of people really didn't like it. Didn't get a huge release. Wasn't really talked about too much when it was coming out of the film festival. So I was like, I might just skip it. but I don't know what happened. I just decided to go one night, and I'm very happy I did. This is a phenomenal film. It kind of has an element of like I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Maybe like a Rounders kind of, if you've seen that movie where Matt Damon's character is a very smart guy. He has a lot of upside and positive things he can do in his life, but he kind of always goes into this criminal underbelly of the city, and this kind of what happens in this film with Leah Woodall's main character, and it's really great. I made like a quick video on my TikTok about it. I was really blown away by how good that film is. More people should have went and saw that. um see what else you got quickly. I'll quickly talk about this Purple Rain. I bought this a few months ago, just because it was on sale on Amazon. Obviously, Purple Rain is one of the biggest, most notable albums ever. I wasn't sure if this movie was like a concert movie or if it was like a narrative feature. It is a narrative feature. I think the narrative is pretty simple, pretty standard. I didn't really care for it, but every time that Prince, he does like perform most of the songs out the album, if not all of them. Anytime he got on stage and started performing them, or like whatever he did in the film, it was fantastic. I'm definitely a Michael Jackson over Prince guy, but Prince is just as good, and some people have him better as Michael. So it was fun to finally watch that because it's a pretty iconic film. Um, I'll quickly talk about this Manhunter. Rewatched it. This was my 10th watch. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because it's getting a re-release in theaters in July, and then later this year it's getting a 4K physical media release, which people have been begging for many years. I'm so happy. You know how much I love this film, and I actually saw that you bumped it down from a 5 to 4.5. I saw that you did that recently.
What?
Maybe not recently, but I caught it. Yeah, you definitely had this at a 5, and now it's at a 4.5. I don't know
I,
how recently you did it, but
I don't. Maybe the app glitched. Like maybe something
I don't
happened,
think so.
but that's a
I don't
little
think so.
that's a little crazy to me. We're gonna have to fix something on that end, but you know, 4K, I could absolutely see that being added to my collection. That's such a beautiful
No,
film.
I'm buying it the minute it drops for pre-order instantly. I don't care how much it is.
Yeah, we'll be there. You know what? Book it now. We're gonna do an episode.
All right, but hopefully, I hope the re-release is wide, because there's not a lot of news about it right now, but it is a month away, so hopefully they come out with some more stuff. Okay, then I'll quickly talk about the film I saw last night at the Alamo Draft House, The Invite. I was supposed to see this 2 months ago at the Boston IFF Film Festival. Got caught up at work really late, so I missed it. This film comes out in about a week, and then it gets its wide release 2 weeks after that. Olivia Wilde directed this. It has Seth Rogen, Olivia Wilde, Penelope Cruz, and Edward Norton. Penelope Cruz and Edward Norton, I think, are some of the most underrated actors still working today, and they're some of my personal favorites. I love pretty much everything that they're in. Like truly, I've watched a lot of their films. I love them. Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde do a lot of great work together. They're awesome in this. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. It's just perfect. It's literally like I've never, me in theaters. I'm very quiet. Like I don't really like make any noise. I don't laugh like audibly. I don't really, I'm just very still. This made me laugh out loud, which never happens. Never, ever, ever. Like literally never happens in theaters. I'll laugh at my house, but when I'm in the theater, I'm quiet. Um, it's hilarious. It's This film does such a good job at all like kind of the, I don't want to say intrusive thoughts because when people think that they think of like really bad stuff, but like sometimes when you're scared to say something to somebody because you think you're gonna hurt their feelings or maybe it's a little rude, these characters say everything, especially Seth Rogen's character, and it's just hilarious. Um, it's a very sexual film, but you don't. There's no sex in it. If you understand what I'm saying. There's no like sex scenes. There's nothing like that. But what they talk about is very sexual, and it's just a lot of things that I feel like people are too scared to say, even like adults, because they're obviously adults and like married in this. But it's phenomenal. Olivia Wilde has had three major feature films. I really like her first film, Booksmart, which is like I actually talked about that when we did our top 10 high school films. It was in my top 10. Um, Don't Worry, Darling it was an interesting idea. It just wasn't executed all that well, in my opinion. And then for her to come with this, I think it was great. It's my favorite film of the year so far. That's going to be quickly dethroned in a month because Odyssey, there's no way that's not 5 out of 5. But this film was really good. I plan on seeing it again in theaters when it gets its wide release. I really loved it, and yeah, it was just amazing. It was really amazing, really happy I got to see it a little bit early.
So I have a list. I'm probably gonna
Hmm.
check this thing out, but you know, just talking to my roommates and I this is a question that came up about Disclosure Day, which we'll get into in a second. But would you spend $20 to see this if you're not a list, you're not a huge movie guy? Would you spend twenty
For the
dollars?
for the invite,
Yeah.
yeah, I would have for sure. Just because, like even when I didn't have A-list back in our freshman year of college, I was still going to the movies a lot. I wasn't going 3, 4 times a week. I was probably going 1 time a week. And I was buying movies then, and this definitely would have been one that I would have bought for sure. And even with my A list, sometimes I have it filled out. Um, so sometimes I still have to buy movies, just because I see so much. But yeah, I definitely would have paid full price for this for sure. Yeah.
Cool. So should we get
Yeah.
into the review today?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Disclosure Day, directed by Steven Spielberg, legendary director, probably a top five American director, and he has quite the catalog. It has Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Coleman Domingo, Eve Hewson, to name a few. Um, what was your initial impressions on this? I know you saw this in IMAX.
Hmm.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Um, my excitement for this really started to ramp up the last couple weeks before it was coming out. Obviously, I was excited. I think this cast is great. I think this is one of the better casts of 2026. Um, but if I'm being honest, Steven Spielberg sci-fi alien films are not my favorite in his filmography. I think you'll see that later on when I do my rankings. I think E.T. is really good. I have to rewatch it though. I think it will go up on a rewatch, but E.T. is great. I think War of the Worlds is really solid. I don't love Close Encounters. I don't love Artificial Intelligence. I'm trying to think of some others. You know, I think when you think Steven Spielberg, you probably go Jaws or Jurassic Park, but a lot of people go to his alien extraterrestrial movies as well. Yeah, so I was skeptical going in. Overall, without getting into the too much of spoilers and plot details yet, I had a good time, really good time. I think the two major strengths of the film are the score. John Williams is back. It's this to me the score felt like Star Wars blended with Catch Me If You Can, which I love both of those scores. That's what I felt. Kind of with the chase narrative and then kind of with the sci-fi element. And I think this film also did really a good job in the way it was shot. There's some camera movements in this film that I've never seen before. Just the way they're shooting characters, especially when it's like Josh O'Connor kind of on the chase, whether he's on foot or in the car. I think it was great. Um, Performances, I was a little let down by, but I don't think it's the actor's fault. I think, and I know you're going to be big on this point. The dialogue and screenplay is probably the weakest part of this film. And when you have somebody like Josh O'Connor, who I think is one of the best, not up and comer because he's like in his mid 30s, but newer big A-list actors, he's just a plot device in this. I felt like he had no emotional, real baggage in the film that I really cared about. Same with Colin Firth and same with Coleman Domingo. Both of those guys are Oscar nominated, Oscar winning guys. They're great actors, and I really love Coleman Domingo. And Colin Firth, I'm not too familiar with his work. I've seen a few things. They literally just feel like plot devices. Like it honestly felt like you could just get any actor to play their roles because I don't know. And that's not to bash on them because I love them. I just don't feel like they had enough to work with. But that being said, I think the two actors that had a shit ton to work with and give, I think, probably some of my favorite performances of the year is Emily Blunt and Eve Houston. Emily Blunt has so much to do in this film. Her emotional range and her character in this film was phenomenal. She does a lot of, weird sounds, a lot of accents, a lot of different languages. She's great. She has a great scene. Um, I'll just say now where she has a panic attack. She depicted that perfectly. It was great. And then I think Eve Houston was amazing. She absolutely rocks the first half of this film. She's amazing. But then we don't see her really for the back half of the movie, which we can get into when we get more to the plots. So there's a lot I liked here. Had a really good time with it. It was a really enjoyable experience in the theater, especially that third act. But this film just felt like rush is not the right word because obviously Spielberg did not rush this, but it just felt like
I would say it was half
it felt,
baked.
yeah, it just felt like kind of like a rough draft, or I don't want to say rough draft, but it felt like he wrote it. They agreed to shoot it real quick. He got everybody on board, and that was kind of it. Like I don't know. It's odd, and I have a positive rating on it. Like I enjoyed my time, but this film I think could have easily been like a 5 star, one of Steven Spielberg's best, and it just missed in a lot of moments for me.
Yeah. And I see a lot of people who are giving it 5 stars, and I can't lie to you. Like, I can see why someone would say, hey, this is like my favorite movie, or this is in my top four. I can absolutely see why they would come to that. It has a lot to say. It's very humanitarian, and, it has all the elements you look for in this, big summer blockbuster. But for me, it just like I said, half baked. It just it has what you want. It has the star-studded cast. It has the cinematography. You get John Williams, one of the best to ever do it at score. I wouldn't say that Spielberg has lost a touch directorial wise, because I think he's still adding that flair. Maybe not to the extent of a Jurassic Park or other films he's done, but he's definitely still got it. I would just say, yeah, the script definitely weighs it down. It's a nearly 3 hour film. I think that a lot of time is kind of wasted in the script, just running around this, Midwest American section that they go for here. The antagonist, he has a ton of screen time, but there's not much to grab onto other than that he's this evil businessman guy that we've seen a million times before. And, they kind of hint at, they have a sort of past between him and Coleman Domingo's character, but ultimately they just don't dive enough into it. Um, the
Yeah,
trailers, they really sell you on the grandness and like this moment that is going to change humanity forever. And yes, the film is building to this point in the third act where, nothing is going to remain the same. But I don't know. I was just kind of waiting for the earth to shatter almost. And we never got that. And we spend a lot of time on these sci-fi elements that they kind of, they spoon feed you information about what some of these tools do, but they never, I don't know, they just kind of give you these breadcrumbs that in my opinion don't really lead anywhere. And it just left me wanting more script wise. It definitely is the weakest aspect of the film. And that's not to say that it doesn't have a message or that there's no themes in the film, because there absolutely is. The world is at war, which I personally, it kind of skipped my mind a little bit that, it's World War III, and that
yeah,
geopolitical tensions are at a rise here. But, there's a theme here of connection and also disclosure of information. There's a lot of censorship going around here, and I just felt like the second act was getting a little repetitive in terms of the action and just, the scenes here. You have an entire planet to roam around, and I feel like they didn't explore that enough, and just what the impact of these aliens being discovered really looks like. I mean, you get it at the end here where they, we'll just go into spoilers, where they reveal that, these aliens have been known for decades, since like the 50s to like 70s, where they've had contact. It'd be cool if we went to Area 51 or we discovered more of these, bases, but it's more so used to serve time for Emily Blunt's character. But I just feel like it was a little too vague for my taste. But yeah, I can see why people enjoy this. We go into a lot of backstory regarding these two characters and how they first came into contact with these aliens and why these two characters are so special. But I don't know. I know you haven't seen Naruto, but it very much became like tropish. And if you've seen Naruto, then you would know that like they both unlock the Sharingan in their eyes, and the whole objective is for them to meet up, right? And to unlock the memories of what happened the day they were probed. And I just don't, I didn't really understand the significance of that day. Yes, plot wise, why it matters so much, but emotionally it didn't really grab me, especially since they illustrate why Emily Blunt's character and Josh O'Connor's character are so different, because they're two halves of the same coin. One is the universal translator, and one is kind of the oracle to humanity, in the sense that one needs to deliver this message. So I just think it could have dove deeper into the themes. And yeah, I'm not totally disappointed by it. If I didn't have A list and I spent $20, would I be pissed that $20 is gone from my wallet? No, but you know, it just left me wanting more.
Yeah, I when the film started, you're just put into the situation. Like it literally just opens up with Josh O'Connor, obviously with the bag, the device, and Colin Firth is chasing him down. I was like, okay, I like this because I feel like I was like, they're not going to go into too much backstory and they're just going to get right to it. And I was like, all right, this might be really good. And then very quickly, I was like, okay, well, I don't like that because we're missing a massive chunk of these characters' backstories. And it's like, why do we actually care about them? Because obviously, there's a lot of history with Josh O'Connor's character and Colin Firth. There's a lot backstory with Josh O'Connor and Eve Houston, a lot with Josh O'Connor and Coleman Domingo that we just do not see. It's not really flashed back to or explained that well. And I think what you were saying about the second act dragging, there's a whole sequence in the second act that I think was just, it's interesting, but I think it was done so terribly in terms of pacing. When Eve Houston first gets, I'm just going to call it hypnotized by Colin Firth, but by the device, it first happens in the bathroom, and she's getting like physically taking control over it, and then she kind of snaps out of it, and then you think it's going to go to like Josh O'Connor or maybe somebody else, and then they have this really weird like transition cut thing that I thought was just odd, and then it's just her in the kitchen trying to fight it again, and then she has this like 10-minute fucking scene or sequence with Colin Firth just like taking control over it, and then she snaps out of it, and then she's like breathing and looking at her cross on her hand with like the religious aspects of the film, and then he does it again, and then like it stops and he does it again, and then it stops and he does. I was like, either just make it one thing or just like it was just getting too much and too repetitive, and then from there it goes pretty much right to Josh O'Connor like walking outside the safe house they're in, which like these are supposed to be like high tech army guys. The dude is like walking around crunching on leaves like fucking 20 feet from them and they don't notice him. It's a little nitpicky, but I'm just like that whole sequence was not smooth at all. I thought it was really just clunky and odd. And I think at that point I was getting worried because I'm like, well, how are we gonna start to wrap this up and make these characters noteworthy? Because I'm like, if it just continues to do this, I'm not gonna love it, and that's kind of what happened. Like I said, I think Emily Blunt really, for me, saved the movie because she just has so many great scenes, so many great emotional scenes, especially like I said, that panic attack when she has one. They actually get onto the train. That scene was phenomenal, and then third act I thought was some of the best directing Spielberg has done, honestly. showing like the newscasting of all the um, confidential alien stuff was great. And yeah, I love the ending too. I mean, we don't have to say the ending yet. I want to get into that a little bit more deeper, but yeah, it's just there was a lot that was just like, come on, man. It just felt amateur at some points.
It makes me wonder how much was lost in the edit because this is a 250 million budget movie, so obviously, they're going to shoot some stuff that isn't going to make the final cut, but it really makes me wonder how much is lost there because there's a lot left undesired by Coleman Domingo's character, which they even hint towards in the script when Emily Blunt first meets him in person. Like he looks at him and she's like, I don't want to know all the answers just yet because it seems like he has a bigger role to play in this, but he almost is like the Nick Fury in this movie in the sense that he's just trying to accelerate the plot in a sense that, he's just trying to bring everyone together. And I thought he was going to do something more, but I don't know. He's just more of a coach in this movie. So, I think the actors definitely try their best with what they're given. But yeah, like we've said, just the script leaves a lot left to be desired. And, I kind of wish that we saw more of the aliens because, it's left to interpretation on what they represent. They're this higher force that we don't particularly understand. And I kind of asked this during the Q&A. Unfortunately, they didn't answer my question. But what makes Steven Spielberg want to return to the, extraterrestrial genre and this cosmic, you know, atmosphere? Because you've done 3 or 4 films at this point on these alien films, and he kind of hinted at it. He answered a similar question. He said that when I'm looking at scripts, the one that I usually choose is the one that I absolutely have to write about or I just can't ignore for any longer. And whether it was the final cut that changed that, I just didn't really understand what about the film made it so important for him to tell.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I was saying, I think the third act was executed so well because I feel like that was such an accurate depiction of if this were to happen in real life, I feel like that's how it would go down. I think the world would just stop. I think a lot of people would obviously be um, very skeptical about, it, especially now with like all the AI stuff. It would be hard to tell. But it would just be broadcasted on every news station. It would be everywhere, and I really loved the scene where they bring the alien in and it stands up and it just talks to Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt. And then Emily Blunt turns to get back on the main camera of the news whatever, and I forget, she says a little bit at first but then it cuts off. I love that because it's just like it just depicts what, like, we don't know, like, if aliens came, what is their mission, what is their motives, are they going to be friendly, unfriendly? And us not hearing what Emily Blunt was going to say, obviously translated from the actual alien, it's just, I thought that was such a phenomenal choice because by the third act, I was getting so invested. I was like, all right, I want to know what they're going to say. And then for Spielberg just to not show us and not tell us is like, okay, that's great. I'm like, that's the Spielberg I know, to make us question and, really have that emotional pull to the film. But like I said, I think it's great in the third act, act two and one. That emotional, true investment into the story and characters is not really shown, and it's a touch disappointing. I would love to revisit this film. It won't be in theaters, unfortunately, just because there's a lot of shit coming out. But I'm sure one day I'll come back to this, just because how much I love Spielberg, and I think his films are so rewatchable. And kind of what I'll touch on later on when we go into our top 10. The more I rewatch his movies, the higher I rank them because they're just phenomenal. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I said, I gave this a 3.5. That's a really positive rating. This is in my top 20 of the year, so it's still pretty high. But I was walking into this film saying this because this is going to be a top 5 Spielberg, and it just unfortunately is not the case for me.
Hmm. He definitely knows how to end a movie. Like, don't get me wrong. And we'll kind of go into it later, but he's just a master at what he does. So, it.
Hmm.
I gave it 3 stars, but if you really compare it to any other filmmaker, like it's probably a 4 to 3.5. If you were just to rate it off of, the mastery and craft of the work, because this is just something that he's been doing for decades, and it just didn't particularly speak to me. But hey, like this is a solid film.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's all I kind of got on Disclosure Day. If you want to say anything else, if not, we can get into the last bit of the episode with our top 10 rankings of Spielberg.
I've kind of said my piece. I'm ready to rank these.
Yeah. Yeah, so we don't know each other's rankings. And I think just the best way to do this is just to go back and forth like we typically do. Um, I'm sure Jthon's going to edit this and, have the numbers count down when we go, but I don't know if you want to start, you want me to start, but I'm ready either way.
Yeah, I'll start at number 10. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of these films, so don't take it too seriously. I've said this a million times whenever we do a top 10 on here, but number 10, I have Ready Player One. It's it's kind of weird thinking that Steven Spielberg of all people directed this thing, but I enjoyed it from what I can remember. It's a very much turn off your brain film, and it almost is like an Edgar Wright film in the sense that it's just super action packed. Your head's on a swivel whenever you watch this thing, and there's a lot of CGI here, but to be honest, like it doesn't look too terrible from what I remember, and
It looks pretty good.
it was fun. And I don't think it's talked too much about from the late 2010s era, which was just a action packed and huge era of movies within the CGI and like big blockbuster genre. But there's more that he's done that personally touches me, and when I think back upon it, I just think fun and a lot of cool Easter eggs that I get to see.
Hmm. Yeah, I really love the shining sequence in that film. But my number 10 is it's at 4 stars, so starting with a 4 star. It's a film that I've really came around to a lot. It is The Lost World Jurassic Park. I think this is a phenomenal sequel. I mean, nothing will touch the first one. That's an untouchable film in my opinion. There's no way you're going to top that. But I think he did a great job with this one, especially not having a lot of the returning cast. Obviously, you have Jeff Goldblum coming back and reprising his role, but you have Julianne Moore stepping in, you have Vince Vaughn stepping in. I loved it. I love when Jurassic Park is on the island. I love the army crew that is with them. It's just really good. I've seen it 3 times now. And I didn't grow up with Jurassic Park as a kid. I thought they were really dumb. I never wanted to watch them as a kid, even though a lot of my friends in my childhood loved them, and they would. I'm sure like I saw um, scenes of it as a kid, but I just never really latch onto them. But now, being older, I love them, and I think The Lost World is a great sequel.
Number 9, I'm sure this is gonna turn some heads here, but I have Catch Me If You Can. Just from what I remember, I just wasn't too in love with this film. I think TikTok has honestly done a lot of damage to this movie's reputation for me, because those AI narrated voiceovers were like the man is stitching over the date on the flight checkbook. It's so corny to me, and Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio, you think that'd be like a home run for me, but I don't know. It just doesn't work entirely for me. From what I remember, I didn't love Tom Hanks's character in this film, and it's fine. It's a little cat and mouse game between the two, and it's charming, but it's just not entirely for me. And it definitely has some funny dialogue and some cool pieces, and I like the golden little cinematography colors there, but I just think there's more to go over here.
Yeah, I want you to rewatch that so bad, but I get it. I get it. My number nine, which might seem a little low, I still love this film. 4 stars is Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is not my only Indiana Jones film on my top 10, so just keep that in mind. I really love it. I watched it for the first time only 2 or 3 summers ago. I was not a fan of Indiana Jones as a kid. I thought they were really dumb. I was totally wrong. These are great films. Harrison Ford is phenomenal in it. I just think I don't want to say it loses me, but the second act of this film I don't love. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's still great. I've seen it. I just recently rewatched a couple months ago. It's great, but there is another Indiana Jones that I like more that I'll get into later on in the list.
Number 8, we just went over Disclosure Day. It's fine, you know. I definitely don't agree with people when they say that Steven Spielberg has lost the touch, or that he's washed, or that he should have ended his career with the Fablemans. I think he can do whatever he wants at this point. He's a legend, but it's fine. We've talked about it.
Yep. My number eight, I actually thought this was a little higher, but I guess it's here, is Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. I think this film is really, really good. I like Temple of Doom. I know a lot of people hate that one. I think that one's solid, but The Last Crusade is now my favorite Indiana Jones. Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, there is not a better pairing that I've seen in Hollywood for a father son duo. That, like, you could not have got two better, because they're such alpha males leading men, and they just work so good together. I love it. You get River Phoenix in here. Obviously, he had a very short career, but he was a great actor at the beginning when he plays young Indiana Jones. But the whole story in this is great. I really love just what they get into. There's so many great action set pieces, like whether it's like the hot air balloon with Sean Connery and Indiana Jones, or when they go on the fighter little plane. There's so many great stuff. Really loved it when I just had my rewatch of it a few weeks ago. I was like, wow, this is phenomenal, and it actually jumped Raiders for me. So yeah, number eight for me.
Number 7, I have ET, and it's been forever since I've seen this one, but you know, it's just very touching. Everyone's seen this thing. It's one of the first movies that I watched that I can remember, and that's for a reason. Um, I don't have too much to add on here. I just from what I remember, it's just from when I think of ET, I just think of those two sitting on the couch like watching fucking cartoons together, like some stoner comedy. But it's just very touching and wholesome, and it's a reason that people think on it a lot when they think of Spielberg.
Yeah, I gotta rewatch that this summer. I wanted to before Disclosure Day. I didn't get to it, but I'm overdue for a rewatch. My number seven though, and I think this is another film I really have to rewatch because I think upon a rewatch this will jump very high in the Spielberg rankings. But I have Minority Report. Tom Cruise. This is a very sci-fi film, and I gotta be honest with you, I forget a lot of this. I only saw it for the first time a couple years ago, and I really don't remember a whole lot of it, but I remember loving it. Tom Cruise is great in it. I think it's one of Tom Cruise's best performances. I think it's a really innovative film from Spielberg as well, from the early 2000s. And yeah, I'll be rewatching very soon. I have it. I just need to, I need to get to it. But it's a great film. 4 star for me.
Number 6, The Fablemans, and I love every time I think about this movie, I like it even more. Like I,
I thought this was going to be number two.
I don't think it's better than Cinema Paradiso. I definitely that movie has a soft spot in my heart too. But I watched this during very formative years in college when it came to just studying filmmaking on my own. And I can't lie to you, like I heavily relate to surprise, surprise. Steven Spielberg's self insert here. It's just very touching. I find the dialogue very charming. It's just very easy to like, in my opinion, and I love it. The ending shot is, it might be my favorite ending to a Spielberg film. I think it's just so. It's a little cheesy, but it's cheesy enough where it's like you can't deny, how brilliant it is. And God bless the late and great David Lynch. He was an awesome cameo, which I had no clue about when I first watched this, and it was just very funny. And to anyone who's an inspiring filmmaker, I can't recommend a movie enough.
Yeah, Gabriel LaBelle is great in that film, and I've seen the David Lynch scene before. I've actually watched this film. I watched it for the first time a couple weeks ago, but I forgot. I totally forgot. So when he pops up as who is he playing? John Ford. Yeah, because John Wayne's the actor, John Ford.
He's
I was like,
absolutely
holy shit! I
chiefing
was like,
that cigar too.
yeah, I totally forgot he was in it. That's a great moment, great scene. But my number six, this film I grew up with. I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters, and I watched it a lot as a kid, and I still watch it a lot now. Is The Adventures of Tintin. I love it. The motion capture animation is great. It definitely has like a little uncanniness to it, and I know some people are turned away from that, but I love it. I think it's hilarious. Andy Serkis is great in it. Jamie Bell as Tintin is amazing. It just feels like a mix of, and this is kind of the character of Tintin anyway, but this film in particular feels like a Pirates of the Caribbean meets James Bond, and I love it. It's great. I think for the past 3 years, I watched it at least once a year, and when I was a kid, I watched it a bunch. It's phenomenal. 4 stars for me. Love Tintin.
Number five, I'm gonna group all of the Indiana Jones movies into one, but maybe I'll just touch on Raiders of the Lost Ark here. It's been forever since I've seen these, hence why I'm kind of grouping them together. But just talk about iconic from the score, Harrison Ford to the adventure and the peril that they get into. It's awesome. Like, there's no denying it. And when I think of Indiana Jones, I always think of when I went to the Museum of Academy Awards and they go over a little section on Foley sound. And, just to brief over to general audiences, if you don't know what Foley sound is like the practice of creating sound for a film, little sound effects that add to the scene, just little touches by creating sounds that you generally wouldn't associate with what is on screen. So, for instance, if I throw my phone straight into the wall across from me, I could do that sound, yes, or I could like I don't know, throw a shoe at a TV screen and it might make a more resonating sound. But it's kind of a bad example, but it's iconic. There's a reason why, it's one of the defining movies within the action adventure genre. Definitely check it out. I would put it on the starter pack if you're just getting into movies.
Yeah, I didn't wait. When did you go to the Academy Museum?
I want to say either my sophomore year or my junior year. It was one of those summers. I went with my grandpa and we drove up to LA, and yeah, it was a
Hmm.
blast. I love that
How
place.
big is it? Because I'm going when I go to LA in October. How big is it?
It's huge. Like there's maybe five
Good.
stories worth of shit going on,
Nice.
and they have different exhibits. Like you have one dedicated to costume design, then you have one dedicated to sound. There's gonna be limited time exhibits dedicated to certain films that they have going on. It's awesome. If you love films, absolutely check it out. Like you just understand why these films are celebrated and they're going to be remembered forever.
Yeah. I now that you're saying, I do remember you saying when you went. Yeah, I can't wait to go. I'm so excited. Um, but number five, I have Schindler's List, which I only watched for the first time. I think it was this year, maybe in the yeah January of this year. It's a great film. I don't know how much I'll be rewatching this film just because it's super emotional and it's just it's a lot, but it's great. Yeah, I always heard. I mean, everybody talks about Schindler's List. It's one of the best films ever made, um, and it's just great. It's just obviously it's awful because the Holocaust and everything that goes on, but the character development and evolution that some of the characters go on, particularly why am I blanking? Liam Neeson's character is great. Um, and this is probably Ray Fiennes has played some bad villains. I mean, Voldemort is a bad guy, but I think his villain performance in this is probably one of the most despicable ones ever. So great film. 4 star for me. Number five.
Number four, and piggybacking off you, I have Schindler's List. I first watched it, I want to say my senior year of high school. I took a film studies class, and I was definitely one that took like three or four classes to finish because it's such a lengthy and obviously heavy subject matter movie, but it's brilliant. I always think back to the shot of the girl with the red dress and everything is black and white. It almost reminds me of Banksy. Like, just great.
Yep. My number four, and I love this film. I will say though, it's not one I find myself wanting to rewatch that much. Because as a kid, my dad used to watch it a lot. I never watched it in full as a kid, but I saw major chunks of it. But it's Saving Private Ryan. Great film. 4.5 out of 5. I think it's, you know, definitely one of the better war films. I don't love. I think this is World War One, if I'm not mistaken. I don't. It is too. Okay, I don't love World War One or two movies that much. I think my favorite war movies from a war is the Vietnam War because I just think that war is like really interesting because it's one of those wars that felt very it got very unnecessary. I feel like, and I feel like a lot of people agree with that, and a lot of chaos happened. But I think those films are just well, that kind of timeline does a little bit better in film, and especially what came after Vietnam, like stuff like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the '60s and stuff like that. But it's a great film. I just don't find myself wanting to rewatch it all that much.
Top three, number three, I have Jaws, which I believe I've seen before, but when I first watched it this week, I was like, wow, I think I fell asleep in the middle of this, but it's just pure filmmaking from Spielberg here. Uh, I love the underwater shots, just brilliant. It looks timeless. The characters are kind of cheesy in this, but it's just super iconic. It trailblazed a million movies that came after it. It was the first summer blockbuster. I love the dialogue in here. It's very subtle. I think back to when they're in the ship and they're talking about, the eyes of a shark. It goes completely black, but once it sinks its teeth into you, it looks like it enjoys it. It's just great. Um, some films that I think inspired by it came afterward, and it really became apparent to me after I watched it was Nope by Jordan Peele. I think that was just
Yeah,
directly inspired by it, especially just the forces of nature are kind of, you can't control it. So just pure filmmaking here. Massachusetts represent, and it's a summer classic for a reason.
yeah. My number three is the same thing. Jaws. Um, I've seen it 3 times now, and I only watched this film on July 4th from for 2023, 2024, 2025, and then July 4th coming up. I will be watching Jaws. I only watch it on that day every morning with a cup of coffee. It's great. Yeah, and I think I definitely saw some of it as a kid, but never the whole thing. So 2023 is, I guess, the time where I saw it in full. And I always knew it was great, but I was like, okay, I wonder how much I'm actually going to enjoy it. But I love it. It's phenomenal. 4.5 out of 5 for me. I think I love practical effects and practical filmmaking. And this is phenomenal. Just, Jaws and how they made that, especially in that time period in the '70s, is phenomenal. And Spielberg had some good films before this, like Duel and stuff like that. But this film really put him into that stratosphere of directors. So it's a really great film.
Number two, I have Saving Private Ryan, and this is one of those films that everyone has seen, but I just, I had to cross off a blind spot. And, it's definitely a boys' film. Just insanely real. It doesn't pull back any punches, especially in that first sequence where, they first land. And wow, just I was kind of shocked by the amount of gore in this. You know, it's a war movie, so obviously it's not gonna really hold back in that category. But it really shocked me how much Spielberg goes into it here, and I'm starting to realize now that, like, I don't know, war movies are kind of Spielberg's thing. It might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but he definitely plays with these stoic characters who are faced with this destruction and, you know, just awful things going around them. And with Tom Hanks's character, you get this almost beacon of hope with this character who is always making tough decisions, but at the end of the day, he is able to connect with his humanity or what's left of it. And he doesn't really understand why Private Ryan is so important, but he understands that if it means that him and his boys can go home, then that's what he's going to do. Um, Definitely a man's movie. Uh, I can identify with a lot of the, you know, sentiment that his character deals with, in the sense that he's dealing with his duty. He doesn't really know how he's going to make it back home or be the school teacher that he was beforehand, but he's here now. He has a duty to uphold, and he has a country to, you know, fight values for. And say what you want about it now in 2026 and what that flag represents, but I think that's pretty admirable.
I agree. Yeah, well said. My number two, I think on a rewatch is gonna go to 5 stars. Catch Me If You Can. I think it's Leo's second best performance. I think it's certainly Tom Hanks's top five. I love everything about it. I love, um, you know, this is kind of a detective film on Tom Hanks' character's part, but Leo is just doing so much here, and this was, I don't want to say super early in his career, but definitely at a point where, you know, he could have gone one or two ways. Like he could have started doing the more bigger roles that maybe didn't show off his abilities too much just to get paychecks, or he could, do more interesting roles where he really got to show his acting ability, and he does that in this film. He's basically playing like 10 characters, and it's just phenomenal. I've seen it twice, and yeah, I'll be rewatching this film every single year, forever. I actually just recently added it to my all-time favorite movie list, which I have like 150 movies in there, and Catch Me If You Can is in there now. So
Number one, and I had a feeling that we were going to agree with each other on this. Number one is Jurassic Park. Just, you know, the new gens might come after me when I say this, but this movie shits on Jurassic World. Like,
oh, good, good, good.
it's not even close. And, you know, I honestly think about it when I rewatch this movie every couple of years. You know, is this movie really all that? Does it capture the sense of wonder and imagination? Come on, come on! Like, the animatronics here, we've talked about it before. I think it pulls off the dinosaurs better than the CGI ever could. And
No, 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 no. Wait a second. When we talked about it before, you said what they do now with the CGI dinosaurs you like more than what Steven Spielberg did back with this film. I'll
you
pull the
can
tape up.
rewind the tapes, but from with what this
That's what
film
you
works
said.
with, I think if you pulled out the fucking George Lucas, you know, Phantom Menace level CGI, it would not work at all. But I think Jurassic Park, when you think of movies, it's absolutely one of the first movies you think of. I don't think I would be nearly into movies as I am today without this one, and it might not be my top four favorites, but I think in the hearts of many, and mine included, it's just pure cinema, from the score to the music to the acting to the dinosaurs. Everything goes back to that scene when they first discover the fuck, I cannot. What's the name of the dinosaurs? Where the brack is it the Brachiosaurus?
Yeah, the really tall one.
Yes, it all
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
back to
yeah.
that scene, and it's probably fuck it. It's the best scene in movie history.
Yeah, my number one Jurassic Park. I only watched it for the first time a few years ago. Like I said, I wasn't into these films when I was a kid, but I love it now. I recently saw it in theaters on a re-release, and when I saw it in theaters, I was just like, I can't believe I can't believe just how well made it is and just how good everything is. And I when I go to Universal, I really love walking through their Jurassic Park area with that music. Um, you'll see soon when we go to Jordan's IMAX. When you walk in there, the first thing you hear is the Jurassic Park um, theme song every time, and it has nothing to do with the movies that they show there. They just play that because it's that iconic. Um, I can't get enough of it, and like it's turning into one of those films where I want to rewatch it like constantly, every like no matter what time of year. Sometimes I really like to watch some of my favorite films in a particular time of year just because it makes the effect a little bit better. Like I really love watching The Thing when it's the first snowstorm of the year, just being enclosed and all that type of stuff. I love watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood right at the first week of June. I love watching Fantastic Mr. Fox the first week of September, but Jurassic Park is one of those movies where I just want to rewatch all the time, kind of like how I do with like The Social Network or Tenet or The Dark Knight, stuff like that. It's great. I think upon rewatch of this film as well, it'll probably go to a five. I plan on rewatching it definitely before I go to Orlando later this year because I just love the Jurassic Park world at Universal. But it's a great film. I mean, everybody's seen it. Everybody knows about it. It's just, it's one of those films that you hear about as a kid that everybody raves about, and you're like, oh, you know, yeah, okay, I'm sure it's good. It's no, it's one of the best. It certainly is. So I love it.
Absolutely. It's funny. My
Yeah.
my mom used to work at this amusement park in California called Roxbury Farms, and it's not like movie themed or anything, but she used to like work one of the rides, and they would play the Jurassic Park music for like however long her shift was, like 12-hour shift, and she was like so fucking sick of it. She hates that movie, but
Yeah. I mean, Spielberg has a deep filmography. I've seen to date right now, I've seen 27. There's still a lot more I have to see. I guess some notable ones that I left off that I kind of want to touch on really quickly is War of the Worlds. I think that's a great film. Really enjoyed that. Duel. It's actually my most popular video on my TikTok page when I kind of reviewed that, which is interesting because a lot of people don't even know what that film is. I didn't know what it was until a couple of years ago. But that's a solid one that I really want to rewatch as well. And Lincoln. I think Lincoln has kind of some of the biopic tropes where it just gets a little long, a little too much. But Daniel Day Lewis is phenomenal in that, and I own the film. I certainly want to rewatch it because I think it will definitely go up in my rankings.
I remember seeing that when I was a kid in theaters, and I honestly can't tell you a thing about that movie. So that's like one of the reasons why I don't have it marked as watched on Letterbox. Same with Tintin. And, I did not get around to watching this movie, but one I did want to watch before this ranking was The Color Purple. I've heard a million things about that movie, and Viola Davis, that's an actor that I have not done my due diligence on and just need to check out more. So,
I don't think she's in that
we're about to do this right now. So, I'm looking it up right now.
unless she's like a kid in it. I don't. I don't think she's in that movie. Whoopi Goldberg is the main actress in that movie.
I'm not the actors
Yeah,
guy.
so
I'm not the actors guy.
I know, but I mean, I don't know if that's a great look. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg and Viola Davis are very different people.
To Viola Davis and her family, I sincerely apologize. I say that without any inclination of humor, and I I owe it to you.
Oh, I don't. All right. Yeah. That's all we got for this episode. Yeah, I think we definitely want to get going on a more um, better schedule. I think it will be a little bit easier once obviously you're back and we're in the same time zone as well. I definitely want to get to some movies that aren't just the ones coming out as well. I want to kind of do what we did last summer a little bit, where we were watching films both for the first time and then coming on here and talking about them. So I would like to get to a few of those this summer for sure. I mean, there are going to be some summer films we talk about though. Like I definitely want to do an Odyssey episode when that comes out. Probably pair that up with a Nolan ranking and little thing with that as well. I'm sure Spider-Man: Brand New Day we're going to talk about. I already foresee that film being a fight between us, so hopefully that will make for some good content.
Hmm.
Because we definitely both have some strong opinions on Tom Holland Spider-Man. So just a lot of good stuff in the pipeline. I'm definitely just excited for the summer. I mean, summer's here. It's kicking off. There's a lot of great films coming out. Um, yeah, and we'll be able to see them together, obviously. So it'll be a good time. And honestly, it's crazy. We're 2 months away from coming up on our 1 year anniversary of the pod, which
Wow.
is crazy. So for that episode, I definitely want to do like another like not film review, but like kind of talking about what we've learned in the year. More of just getting to know us, kind of how we try to like to do that every 6 months, just more stuff like that. But yeah,
We'll do something
it's
special.
yeah, it's definitely moving. So it's been good, a lot of good stuff. Um, to look forward to. I'm definitely going to make a better effort on our TikTok page because our clips, for the most part, for the amount of followers we have on both our TikTok and our YouTube, our clips typically do pretty well. And I feel like we've been getting more engagement with them. So I just have to do a better job of make sure those are getting posted out and doing all that type of stuff, which I will continue to do. So yeah, I think if you ever come across one of those short videos, pop over to Spotify or the YouTube and you know take a chance on our full length podcasts. I know for some people they're not super into that, but if you're somebody that is into films, I watch a lot of film podcasts, and I'm still discovering films I've never heard about before, and I love to just see people's opinions on stuff. So me and Jthon definitely provide that in all our episodes. So definitely check out our full length episodes if you haven't. So
Hmm. Yeah. Even
yeah,
just 10, 20 minutes. Fuck it. We have
yeah,
timestamps, chapters. Let's do it. But yeah, we're
yeah.
gonna keep it rolling. Summer, a lot to look forward to. Just stay tuned. YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, wherever you can find us. Fuck it, Letterbox. Go follow us.
Yeah. All right. That's it for episode 29. Peace.
See ya.